I was just thinking during the break, if you were going to practice shutting down cities, lining people up, arresting certain individuals, surveilling and tracking the every move of all the others, where would you test that? You'd test that at Disney World. And that's how my brain just clicks. I'm like, Department of Defense Laboratory. Because I know their nomenclature. Boom, look it up, Department of Defense Laboratory. And again, it's not that I'm that smart. Somebody who's been watching football for 20 years, obsessed with it, you're going to know, as much as the guys on ESPN or more. It's the same thing here. I've actually studied what's really being built, what's really going on around me. And I understand why the average person just goes, oh, that can't be true. Because you're taught you can choose your reality. You're taught that you can just say, oh, I don't believe this guy. But that doesn't change the facts. We might as well have little gray-headed aliens with big black eyes, like science fiction says, running things. Because the globalists are that removed from humanity. They're that cold-blooded. They're that hateful towards their own species. And in their own publications claim they're another species and transcendent, and they're going to get their world government. We're not going to be part of the future, and the globalists will get the life extension, and only the elites will get the digital augmentations. The pace of change that we are about to see as a society is mind-boggling, because we've been in a frozen stasis culturally with just slow little incremental changes, just coloration changes, presentation changes in 30-year-old tech that the globalists developed and bought and stole and put together. And now they've decided to go ahead and start accelerating a lot of the programs and the change. And if they are successful, 99.9+% of those that help usher it in will be destroyed, will be crippled, will be made destitute, if they're lucky, by it. But because they are living in a fantasy land, because they're receiving false data, they won't even know that on the journey. They'll think they're winning, and they'll think it's a tragic event when they fail, and that it's somebody else's fault. It's all scripting. When you believe anything a liar says, you'll believe anything. You see, sometimes I can't just get up here and cover the news and analyze it. Because even within covering this news, we play into the paradigm of the social engineers. The way to defeat the New World Order is to really awaken to the fact that this civilization, to a great extent, has been pre-planned. And I said to a great extent because they're not in complete control. They're trying to get in complete control. That's the most important point. I haven't made it. If the globalists get their system in place, what would the complete control look like? Look in my eyes. You've got a lot of ancestors and all of their experiences. You've got intuition. You know the truth. I've seen the future, and so have you. We've got to change it. I tell you what, I've spent an hour, 45 minutes, minus the commercials, kind of segueing in and out of the heart of my concerns dealing with the technocratic elite that are pre-designing our future and our technological development. It's very painful to hear talk show hosts talking about Steve Jobs and all of his innovations when that is multi-decade old technology and was rolled out according to a predestined, pre-established plan. The North American Union, the Asian Union, the Euro, all of it developed, set up by 1957 with the Treaty of Rome. A contemporary example that I use commonly is the Pentagon still claims the SR-71 Blackbird, developed in 1952 and serviced by 1955, is the fastest aircraft to this day in 2012. Or a more modern example is the B-2 bomber, stealth bomber. Test models were developed and already deployed in the 1960s. It was in service by the 1970s, and of course was not revealed to the public until 1987, or was it 88? Guys, look up, just do a memory test here on my primitive electrochemical system, interface it with the silicon version, and let's pull up the B-2 bomber public rollout. I believe it was 87 or 88. Perhaps it was 89 now that I think about it. Let's just find out. Okay, continuing here. The reason I'm so concerned, let me just give you one small data point of literally hundreds on the subject of mass death, mass population reduction. Because this is something that I've been talking about for a very, very long time with great concern, because I've been able, in deep research, to investigate why Western governments are building gigantic, quasi-secret, doomsday scenario facilities all over the world. Why are they building animal and human DNA arcs in remote areas of the Himalayas, the Arctic, the Antarctic, the frozen tundra? B-2 rollout was 88, thank you. I watched the continuity of government system via NATO and the United States, but the Russians and Chinese are also been obsessed with it, spending in some years upwards of 10% of the entire defense security budgets on building giant underground bases with nuclear power, underground reservoirs. You know, people could live under there for 100 years. I watched this, and I watched, since I became really awake 18 years ago, quasi-awake 18 years ago, I became fully awake 15. I watched, and just because you're awake doesn't mean you know everything. It means you're now awake, you're able to learn. I watched this mad rush like the end of the world was coming. And then I learned, because these people leak stuff and they talk and the different academics talk, that they're not concerned about a meteorite. They're not concerned about little green men. They're not concerned about even nuclear war so much as they are biological weapons. And again, if you're driving along in your car right now, let's say you got your family in the car, maybe there's 6 of you in the vehicle. Statistically, if any of these weapons are released, and I'm going to talk about it here in a moment, statistically, if any of these are released, everyone in the car will be dead. Now, I know that's not as important as NFL playoffs. But see, there won't be any NFL playoffs if this happens. And I have then discovered in the last 5, 6, 7 years, my research just confirmed in triplicate, in spades, every angle I look at it, that they're not building these bunkers because they're worried about some rogue group producing and releasing airborne Ebola with a 94% kill rate, or human mousepox with a 99% airborne kill rate, or different variants of bird flu and others with a 91, 92% kill rate. That's 9 out of 10 on your block dead. End of civilization as we know it. They're not doing this because they're worried. The only thing I have to figure out is if they're going to go ahead and release it, as they're clearly building up towards, why they're running around, I guess for some future history. Maybe that's it, so they can blame it on out-of-control biological testing so that once they reemerge and set up a new civilization, they'll have an excuse for a total police state tyranny over all biological and nanotech developments. Because the entire establishment acts like we don't even exist and they don't even care if we're wise to them, and they're just getting ready for the end of the world, while setting up 36 level 4 bioweapons labs in level 2 and 3 containment, and setting up over 200 other facilities that are barely level 2 that have level 4 weaponized, airborne, total death being developed in them. Because, you know, the globalists sell to kind of mid-level minions and establishment types who think world government's like some Star Trek thing, because like baby ducks, they were imprinted with that, oh, it's just a big, you know, we all run around in jumpsuits and fly around in jetpacks in the global government and have, you know, hot blonde girlfriends or whatever. You know, that's in all the different movies and stuff. No, you're dead in that future. You don't exist. They send automated robot crawlers in to pull you out of the underground parking garages and your basements. You're not flying around wearing tinfoil outfits in the system, okay? Looking at it, the only answer there is they're just passing out all these bioweapons like dum-dum suckers at the barber. They're handing them out to any government, putting the full ingredients, the full breakdown, how to make all this stuff on the internet, because I guess in their weird, sick way, they're just going to let someone else produce it or leak it or have a mistake or claim a terrorist got it. And I've seen that in other models. 2000, foot and mouth, weaponized, England. I could tell it was a government operation. How? I'll give you a data point in a moment. Several data points. But I knew that was weaponized because in a 2-day period, it popped up from Scotland to southern England at hundreds of ranches, hundreds of farms. You don't have a foot and mouth pop up and show up all over the place at once unless it was governmental or major corporate launched. And sure enough, about a year after it happened, and they killed 8 million sheep, 4 million cows, used it to take over, have government control, try to break the farms in the UK. It came out in the government and the BBC and other publications said, we believe an animal rights activist who doesn't believe in domesticated animals at this particular zoological level 4 bioweapons facility must have stolen it. But that's impossible. One man, one woman, or even a group of a few dozen terrorists couldn't get that all over the UK and have it all pop up on a 2-day period with a government announcement PR on top of it. That's another data point, the slickness of the announcement. But the issue here is that they're probably going to let a low-level group release some airborne system that kills the majority of those that come in contact with it as the excuse to have the bio clamp down police state so they can then release something even more deadly later. And I think I've just answered my question right there. But they're passing it all out.